In this video, I'm going to walk you through my exact onboarding process that helped me onboard 537 clients over the last 4 years. I'm going to walk you through everything from A to Z, so hopefully it doesn't take you 4 years to figure it out. All right, guys, so as you can see from my screen on my board here, so basically we have the entire thing mapped out. So the way the process works, first and foremost, we start with a closing call. So on the closing call specifically itself, this is when the prospect says that, hey, they do want to move forward. I have a really hot take here. I don't like to collect the payment at all or send the agreement, because I find that when I don't do that, where I just say, you know what, sounds good, we'll collect everything, we'll do everything on the first onboarding call, it gives the prospect a lot of confidence that, hey, you're not just there for their money. So it just, it also makes you look very confident that you're not super hungry for their money, and, you don't mind waiting a couple more days. And this is a breath of fresh air. Everybody out there is just like, looking for the payment right away. So I found that just not booking basically collecting payment on the first call helps significantly build your trust. So what we typically do is we have the closing call, then we book the first onboarding call. Within the onboarding call, the first one, we just set expectations, we fill out the onboarding form, we gain access to their ad accounts, their socials, whatever it is that you're managing. We send the agreement, we collect the payment, and we learn more about their ideal client avatar. We already know a good amount by this point. You should already know that. Want to get a lot more clear. On the second onboarding call, what we do is we present the marketing assets that you created. We get them to agree to all the marketing material that you created. We want to make sure that they're on the same page as you. We go through the action plan that we have for them specifically on all the steps that we're going to be taking together, and we help them launch a campaign, right? And the time frame between that is about 7 days. Thereon after, another 7 days, we go on the third onboarding call. That's when we provide them some feedback on, their campaign, give them a walkthrough of your CRM if that's something you have, show them how to use the system, so on and so forth. And thereon after, we have lots of check-in calls, right? Which I'm going to dive deeper into. But what I want to do is go very in depth in terms of what we do on every single one of these calls in depth, so you have a really good understanding of how this entire process works. So basically on the closing call itself, once the prospect says, you know what, Martin, I want to move forward, what are the next steps? So what we do is we typically schedule the onboarding call with them. So typically we say, what's the best day and time for you this week, right? Then they usually say, oh, I'm good on Mondays, right? Then we say, how's Monday at 10 a.m. or 1 p.m.? Once you book the meeting, make sure they receive the calendar invite while you're on the call with them. So say something along the lines of, John, I just sent over the calendar invite. Did it make it to your inbox? And make sure they clicked accept and they accept that invitation onto their calendar. That way it actually shows up. Now, again, like I said earlier, this is a hot take, but I don't like to collect payments on the closing call. I found that this shows the prospects that you're super confident and you're not desperate for their money. And it also helps them feel a lot more comfortable. A lot of other agencies, they're there to just get the money. And, once they've been paid, they don't do much. So I like to collect the payment at the end of the onboarding call, okay? Now, on the onboarding call itself, what I like to do is go over the agenda. So once we're meeting, I go over the agenda. And you should have a list of all the requirements you need to complete. So for us, is we go over the onboarding form, we go over their agreements, and also collect payments. So that's what we typically do on our onboarding calls. So on the onboarding form, we basically collect basic info. So their full name, email address, phone number, when they want to launch the campaign, etc. Get access to any sort of content or digital assets that they have, whether that's ad accounts, whether that's content they've created, whether that's websites, so on and so forth. You also want to dig deeper into their ideal client avatar. So in terms of age, location, profession, etc. You want to make sure that you have a good grasp of who they're targeting. And not only that, you want them to feel like you understand them. So you always want to constantly confirm. So you're saying you want to go after people in this area that look like this, that in this XYZ profession, right? You want to get very crystal clear on that. And basically you want to make sure that everything is set up, that everything you collect most important information. If you ever need to come back to them later on and ask them for more info, that's completely fine. But you want to make sure you ask 90% of this stuff ahead of time. Now, I want to go over, what causes most issues for agency owners. So typically what happens is an agency owner signs up a client to their services with something very loose, which is like, I'll help you get leads or I'll help you with your marketing. And the agency owners, what they do is they don't provide any sort of agreement of what's expected or what's actually going to get done. And the client gets angry because their ads aren't running. And the agency owner says, well, you know what? It's not going to take, a couple of days. It's going to take 2 to 3, 4 weeks, right? And the client emails the agency owner every couple of days and saying, well, they're asking for a report, for progress, so on and so forth, and possibly even asking for more changes. And then the agency owner does everything the client is asking, but they're also never happy because there's no expectations. They always expect more. And what ends up happening is the client ends up canceling and they're angry for the rest of their human years, and they're going to say that nothing ever worked, right? Which didn't, because they never got the results they expected, because who knows what they expected, right? So my experience working with clients is that when you don't establish clear expectations with your clients before actually starting the work, it always leads to problems. So you always want to make it very crystal clear what it is you provide and what the engagement is going to look like, right? And people from all walks of life tend to, test the limits, right? You give them an inch, they try to take miles. So you want to be very crystal clear what's on your end, what's on their end, and make it very specific, right? You want to set playground rules. That's completely fine. And most agency owners avoid sending out agreements because they feel like that clients may refuse to sign up if there's an agreement, or it might cause some friction, and they just rather do it with no agreement, right? And that's going to be very, very detrimental to you and them, because when there's no agreement in between you, anybody can change their mind at any given time. So you want to be very crystal clear on that. And when you establish expectations, clients tend to follow the rules. So if they don't, you can just remind them, hey, on the agreement it says, we do X, Y, and Z. I'm happy to help you with these areas. If you like extra services, this is a cost. Or if they say, why is it taking 4 weeks for my ads to start running? Well, it does say that in the agreement. So we want to be very crystal clear with that. As long as you have a simple agreement that goes over all the terms and conditions, that's all you really need, okay? And when you establish proper expectations, clients only expect what was promised to them. Now, I'm not saying that won't happen when they ask for extra stuff, but it limits, from, having it 8 out of 10 times, it might go down to 1 out of 10 times, right? Which is significantly better. So a solution to that is having an agreement that talks about your services and your responsibilities as well as theirs, okay? So you want to have an agreement that talks all about that, okay? So you want to make a minimum viable agreement. Make it short, make it simple, and plain English. Don't make it confusing, because if people are confused, they're going to take extra time to actually go ahead and sign it, and that's going to cut into your revenue because you're not getting paid. So don't put too much legal jargon. Make it very simple, easy to understand, something that a 16-year-old could understand. Okay. So clearly outline specific services that you're going to provide to them. So say, I'm going to provide X, Y, and Z services. Okay. And outline the specific things that are going to require from the client in order to complete the work. So if you're doing short form content, you have to say that clients have to provide you with their clips or pre-existing videos, once a month at this date, right? Make it very clear. Make it so that there is very little fault on your end and you can never be blamed for anything, okay? And clearly define costs, permit, payment terms, hourly fee for additional. So if they want additional work, right, that there's a fee for that. And minimum term, so if you want to do a 6-month term, or if you want to do a 3-month term or a 12-month term, whatever it happens to be, as well as a cancellation policy. How could they get out of this if they so choose to? And also mention your guarantee. If you have a guarantee or a refund policy, make sure that it is mentioned within this, and clearly state how you're going to be working together and how we're going to be communicating, okay? So you want to say something along the lines of that the best way for communication would be email and phone calls, ideally email, and we will respond to you within 24 hours from the receipt of your email, right? Make it very specific, and also do get back to them, okay? And provide a limitation of liability to protect you and your business, so that in case things go wrong and they do want to, say, take legal action, the most that they can claim would be the fee that they've paid you and nothing in excess of that, okay? Meaning that if you completely mess up and it causes a huge problem and it causes them, say, $50,000 in damages, and they only paid you $6,000, they can only come back and ask for that $6,000 as opposed to the $50,000 damage that you created. So you want to also put that in writing, and provide a process for handling disputes so that if things go wrong, that there is a process for that, okay? And make sure that the prospect reads and signs the agreement while they're on the Zoom call with you. So what we use is a tool called, a software called PandaDoc. There's a bunch of them out there. There's DocuSign, PandaDoc, so on and so forth. PandaDoc's great. You can create a free account. We've used it for the past 4 years and we've paid them $0. So all you need is a basic PandaDoc account. And basically, create your account, send them the agreement, and say, John, I just sent over the agreement to your email. Let me know if you received it. And once the prospect opens it, say, John, here are the terms and conditions as mentioned previously. So I usually share my screen or get them to share theirs. And I usually say, if it all looks good, please go ahead and authorize the agreement. Make sure you don't say sign the contract. Sign the contract is literally the worst thing you could say. Authorize the agreement means the exact same thing. But contract is typically known as, big deal. So is sign, right? It feels like, you're signing your life away, right? So you don't want to do that. You just want to say authorize the agreement. It's very nonchalant. It's very, how do I say it? It's very casual, and it's not going to cause a lot of friction and sales resistance in there. And it's an easier pill to swallow, okay? Very important distinction here. Do not ever say sign the contract. Do not ever call it a contract. It's an agreement. It's the same thing. Just one word has a lot more depth to it, and it creates a lot more friction. Use agreement. Now, once that's done, it's time for you to get paid. It's time for you to get some cash. So once they authorize the agreement, say, would you like to use Visa, MasterCard, Amex? Then they'll typically say MasterCard. Now, what you could do is send them an invoice and get them to actually pull out their credit card, type it in themselves. I found that's a lot more friction. What works extremely well is when I say, sounds good, I'm going to process it on my end and send you the receipt whenever you're ready. So for that, we use Stripe. You can go in, create a customer profile, add a payment method, and just charge them on your end. The benefit is of doing it this way is every month you can just charge them on your end without having to send them a receipt, and they would have to fill in their cards, and it cuts a lot of back and forth, right? When you have the information, you can just charge them on that specific date. There's a lot of automations that you could use to automatically charge them on that specific date as well. So you could create a subscription. But what I found is it takes a lot of effort for prospects, or just mental effort for them to pull out their card and plug it in and pay you, because that's a lot of friction there, right? Whereas if you just charge them on the back end, it's a lot easier. Just like Amazon, they have the one-click buy as opposed to going and reviewing your order and clicking buy, right? It helps significantly more. So once you've processed the payment, what you want to do, you want to set the next meeting, all right? So before you end off, you want to make sure you welcome them on board. So you want to say, John, I want to personally welcome you on board. Moving forward, I'll be working with you one-on-one, holding your hand throughout the whole process. Hopefully I won't annoy you too much, but I'm really looking forward to this, and let's get you some appointments, okay? So you're just giving them a nice warm welcome, and they know exactly what the next steps are. And you want to say, on the next call, we're going to go over X, Y, and Z. So on the next call, I'm going to go over your ads that I'm going to create for you. Or on the next call, I'm going to show you the exact cold email and LinkedIn messaging templates that we're going to be using and launching your first campaign. Make it very specific, make it so easy to understand and crystal clear. And at the end of every call, you want them to walk away knowing exactly what's happening and what they are expecting. Thereafter, you're going to have your second onboarding call, which you're going to go over the assets that you create. And third call, you want to just show them how to use the system. If you provide a CRM, you want to walk them through it. If you have leads, if you want to provide them with scripts, you want to walk them through it. If you have a training portal, like a course, you want to walk them through it. Whatever the case might be, you want to make it very clear. I've been saying that throughout this entire video. So what I want to talk about now is how to manage the relationship once they've been onboarded, right? So once you've had your first onboarding call, second onboarding call, third onboarding call, thereafter, what you want to do is every 7 days, within the first, say, 2 months, I like talking to them every 7 to 14 days. Thereafter, the frequency goes lower and lower and lower. Goes maybe once every month. So what I like to do is, talk about what's going to happen on these one-on-one calls and how do we manage the relationship? How do we make sure that they're happy and they always stick with you? So what I want to talk about is how to manage your clients and the relationship itself. So the requirements for that is you need to establish a very strong relationship, right? You want to make sure that they feel that you're the expert and they listen to you. If they start to, go against what you're saying or your recommendations, the relationship's just going to fall apart and it's not going to work. Now, if they make suggestions and say, hey, Martin, I feel like we could do X, Y, and Z better, actually listen to them. And if it's a good idea, by all means, do it. But if you really, let's say if you want to do X, Y, and Z, and they want to do something completely different, and you actually think that won't work, don't do it. Make communication very clear. Always under promise and over deliver. Don't promise them the entire world and give them a really bad service. And remind them and show them that you're not just a lead vendor or some marketing guy. You want to come across as a growth consultant, somebody who is a professional that does this for a living. You don't want to just be known as the guy who gives you leads, or you want to be known as the guy who's in charge of everything, professional, and they can help you beyond just the scope of work, and they're knowledgeable in all realms, okay? And you truly want to help them in other aspects of the business, whatever they can. So if they, let's say you get them lots of leads, but they're not closing, then you have to look into their conversions. What are they saying on the phone to these prospects? What are they doing in their meetings? Are they getting back to them in a short period of time? Why are they not closing, right? So you want to be very good with that as well. And maybe perhaps they have appointments coming in from other sources, but they have a really low show-up rate. So what you could do is just look inside and be like, hey, maybe if you used a tool like Calendly and created a few of these confirmation texts, reminders, so on and so forth, and call them the day before, your show-up rate would significantly increase, right? So you want to help them in these areas as well, provide value, and this is not going to cost a lot of your time anyway. The next thing is they need to feel that you have their best intention in mind. You want them to feel like you guys are a team and you're both looking to do the same thing, which is grow their business. And they want to feel that you're a true professional and capable of solving any sort of problem. So what you want to do is let them see how dedicated you are to their success and really truly supportive. Meet with them often while you're working with them. Like I said, within the first month or two, every 7 to 14 days, thereafter, once a month. And I don't mean if there are issues, meet them as often as is possibly needed, right? If there's no issues, meet them once every couple of weeks. Lead the relationship and get rid of any sort of friction or roadblocks. Do most of the work when possible. Clients are very lazy for the most part. If you ask them to do things, they typically going to take their time and they're not going to get things done in time. So try to do most of the things that you're able to in order for the campaigns to launch and be able to be operational. So try to do as much of it as possible and get them to do the least amount possible, because if you leave it up to them, it's going to take forever for your campaign to launch, and they're going to think that, hey, I'm paying you all this money and I'm not getting any results, where in reality is their fault. So try to do as much of it as you can, and your clients will annoy you from time to time, but you need to be professional at all times. Never be rude, never be disrespectful, always be kind to them, be respectful, don't ever say anything rude to them. Even if they're doing the same thing, be the bigger person. If that's happening, end the relationship. There's no point in keeping it going. If they're being disrespectful to you, just end the relationships and walk away. So put yourself in the client's shoes and truly try to understand them. You're responsible for everything, okay, as well. So if things are going right, it's your responsibility, and you're being rewarded for it. And if things are going back, it's your fault. So you want to be mindful of that. And don't delay dealing with problems. If problems are happening right now, if there are problems right now, deal with it ASAP. Okay? They're going to realize that, you're proactive, that you actually are paying attention, and they're going to be a lot more appreciative and understand that, they have someone working for them that's taking care of this huge problem, which is their marketing. And what people like is when they feel like someone is taking care of it, a professional has it handled, right? When they feel like, I have someone on my corner that's going to take care of it, it gives them that relief, that peace of mind that they have one less thing to worry about. You want to give them that comfort as well. Now with this, to manage a relationship, you want to set clear expectation, you want to take the lead, be confident. Clients will follow your vibe and how you treat them. And if things are going wrong and you come in and say, oh my God, guys, things are really bad, then that causes fear in them. Whereas if things are going wrong, you say, hey John, by the way, one of our ads is not working. I'm going to go ahead and fix it. It should be good within the next day or two. It's the same thing. Same thing might be happening, but the first way of telling them that causes anxiety. The second one is like, oh shoot, there's a small hurdle. They're going to get it figured out. They're good. Mario knows what he's doing. Okay? And talk about problems when things aren't working out. But do it the way I did it. Don't just say it in a way where it's going to cause them anxiety. Okay? And make sure both parties are agreeing, right? Again, don't agree on something just for the sake of agreeing and ending the phone call, right? Or ending the meeting. Be very clear, make very clear expectations. If they're looking for something that you're not capable of, or you truly feel like is not the best decision for them, don't do it. And what you want to do, you want to conduct a lot of one-on-one meetings with them, right? So be proactive, respond to their emails quickly. One way to really piss people off is to not respond to them. If people ask you for help or email you and ask you a question, try to respond back to them within the same day, ideally within a couple of hours. If they feel like, they ask you if there's a problem, that you'll get back to them right away. There's a lot of confidence, but if you reply to them every 3 or 4 days, that's really going to piss them off, okay? Especially if they're upset. They're really going to be pissed off even more. Never, ever, ever ignore a client's emails, even if they're being unreasonable. So how do we retain clients? What you want to do is you want to impress them, especially in the first 60 days. This is the most important period. A lot of clients that you talk to will tell you, or prospects I should say, that, we'll try it for the first 60 days or 90 days, right? This word try, that means they're just evaluating if they should keep this going. So if you really impress them within that 60 days, you're buying yourself extra time. It's very unlikely that clients come, sign up with you, and make a sale. Like, let's say if you're dealing with a real estate agent, right? That's your ideal client. Realtors typically takes them about 3 to 6 months sometimes to close a specific lead. So they're not going to be closing. So the only thing you could do is impress them and show them a lot of appointments, get them good conversations. So that's one way of impressing them. But if their expectation is that they're going to close a client, which is possible but highly unlikely, then they're going to have a sour taste in their mouth. So you want to be very clear with that, and you want to just impress them. And don't overdo it. Give them exactly what they need, not what they want, right? So if they feel like Instagram ads is what they should do, but that deep down what they really need is Google PPC. Do Google PPC. Don't offer them something because they feel like they want it, because that's not going to be useful. You're in charge. You tell them what works. You're the expert, and you need to decide what's best for them. And what you also want to do, you want to win the people over. So you need to build solid relationships with other people in that business, because they'll stick up their necks for you. And what's going to happen is you work with a team of people at a business, and there's multiple people on that team, and there might even be a marketing person specifically for that business, right? They might feel that you're threatening their job. So let's say if a business that's big, there's 10, 15 people there, and they have someone in charge of marketing. They literally get paid for marketing. And then there comes this guy who's been hired as a contractor for a lot less money than his salary, right? These marketing folks are probably getting $5,000-$6,000 a month. And let's say the boss comes along and hires a marketing agency for, say, $2,500 a month. Now, what that's doing is you're threatening the job of the marketing guy. So if all of a sudden the boss can replace him with half the salary, not having to pay anything, any sort of benefits, any time off, holidays, any of that stuff, that's a lot more attractive. And also, if you give them better results than this guy has been for the past couple of years, it's an easy choice for the boss to let him go. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't come across as a threat to them, because people will do crazy things. If they feel like you're a threat, they'll sabotage your entire relationship with the boss, and there you go, and they're going to keep their job. All right. So what you want to do, you want to become friends with them. You want to highlight their wins to the boss as well. So when you're talking to the boss, you can say something along the lines of, well, we did this, but Jonathan in marketing also helped us with this. Without him, we couldn't do X, Y, and Z. Now, you're also highlighting Jonathan's skills, and he's going to, you're also showing to the boss that we do need Jonathan. And you want to make other people in the firm feel like that their opinion matters. Don't just, think that the boss's opinion matters. No, believe me. The folks that work there as well, their opinion matters, because if they don't like you, they'll make sure you're out of here as quickly as possible. And keep in mind, again, they're not your friends. While you want to be respectful and kind and be friendly, they're not your friends. So don't overshare. Don't tell them things that they don't need to know. And what you want to do, you want to be very careful with your quality. If you mess up in the beginning, they'll want to double check everything. It really slows down your process and your progress. So if in the very beginning you make stupid, dumb mistakes, for the rest of the time that they're going to be working with you, they're going to want to double and triple check everything. And you want to be accessible and be in touch with them often, and make sure that they understand everything and they're not confused. Now, what I want to talk about now is picking up low-hanging fruit. So what I mean by that is you want to get them a few quick victories, a few quick wins. So if they have a lead list, you want to reactivate them and get them appointments ASAP. This is going to show that you're capable of very early on, and it's going to build extra confidence for them, and they might actually get a few clients right away because you're reactivating an old lead list that they have access to. And when they do have their first few positive interactions or appointments or victories, you do not want to get excited, because if you do get really excited, that shows that you haven't done this for very long. You just want to be like, well, I'm happy to hear. Tell me more about it, right? Don't start celebrating it, right? Don't get super excited. Don't ask for a testimonial, because that shows them that you're not used to this. You want to come across as the guy who does this all the freaking time. And you want to go above and beyond and do things that others won't do, as long as it makes sense, right? If they're appreciative and they're a really good client and they're paying you well and they can refer you people down the line, they give you testimonials down the line, go above and beyond for them, but within reason. And as I said earlier, be accessible. Make sure that they have a way to contact you. Most relationships end due to poor communication. So if you really want to piss them off, again, ignore them. Even if you have an okay product, but you have top tier customer service, you're always there for them, people won't complain. People often complain if they've been ignored. And what you want to do is, if you get someone who wants a refund, right? There's going to be times where people want a refund, they ask you for a refund and they're unhappy, okay? What you want to do is you want to retain them. It's crucial to approach the situation with open ears and focus on resolving their concerns. Don't argue with them, even if they're in the wrong. Just let them vent out, okay? Just listen to what they're saying. Literally get them on a phone call, and just be like, John, what exactly happened? Or, John, what exactly happened, just so I understand? Then they're literally going to go on like a 3-5 minute tangent, and the whole time be like, okay, got it. Just take notes, right? Literally take notes as to what they're saying. Then you want to ask open-ended questions, right? Then what you want to say, John, I apologize that this happened. What would you like me to do so that we can actually correct this for you moving forward? Then they're going to actually tell you the solution that they have in mind. Maybe they got in front of a lot of leads who were just not ideal, right? Then they might say, well, you know what, if I actually had a few more conversations with people who are worthwhile talking to, then I'll be okay. At that point, by this point, they've already vented. They've told you the solution that they like. And what we want to do is propose a solution. We say, John, would it help if I did some fact finding over the next day or two, and maybe we got back together just so I can, take care of this for you and make sure you're well taken care of? And this question shows that you're there for them and you're going to work for them and make sure that things are solved. And that's all they want. When people are upset, they're typically in an emotional state and they do things that are not logical. So you want to make sure that you're just managing their emotions. You're just moving them to the next step, because once they meet you in a day or two, they're going to be in a lot better of a mindset, and they're going to be a lot calmer and a lot more receptive. All you want to do now is tell them that, hey, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to figure it out. Let's meet. That's all you want to do. And you want them to feel like they've been heard. Do not ever argue with them if they're upset, or ever, really. And what you want to focus on, guys, last but not least, is offense, not defense. You can't win them all. You really can't. There are clients who your process and your service is not a good fit for. So you don't want to, try to fit a, you don't want to offer them, you don't want to keep them on something that's truly not a good fit for them. If they don't want it, let them go. If someone wants their money, refund them after you've gone through all these steps. This strategy that I went through will help you retain about 80% of the clients, but there are, that 20% who will still ask for their money back. And all you can do is provide a top tier service and focus on new money, because that's really what's going to help you grow. So again, provide top tier service and focus on new money. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and join my free Skool group down in the description below. And I'll see you in the next one.